Hello, fellow curious minds, and welcome to this intellectual journey. Today, we're not going to talk about a philosopher or a sociologist, but perhaps the sharpest observer of human nature who ever lived. We're going to face the Colossus. We're going to talk about William Shakespeare. Before we dive in, a quick note. To bring this narrative to life, I've used AI tools to generate the images you see. Think of them as a canvas, a way to illustrate the ideas and atmosphere of our story. They won't always be literal representations, but rather visual companions to help your imagination soar with me. I sincerely hope you enjoy it. The big question of this video is simple, yet overwhelming. Why him? More than 400 years have passed, and we're still quoting, adapting, and debating a playwright from a humble English town. Is it just cultural inertia, or did Shakespeare truly crack some fundamental code about who we are? To understand his legacy, we must first separate him from the myth. The Bard of Avon wasn't a solitary mystical genius. He was a businessman, an actor, and an incredibly pragmatic playwright working in one of the most competitive and collaborative industries of his time, Elizabethan theater. Our exploration will be divided into several parts. First, we'll look at the world that shaped him. Then, we'll analyze how he used comedy to dissect society. We'll plunge into the darkness of his great tragedies. We'll examine his analysis of power in his history plays. After that, his poetry. And finally, his most enduring legacy, language. Let's begin with the context. Shakespeare lived in Elizabethan England, a violently exciting and transitional era. It was a pivotal period between the medieval world, dominated by religious certainty, and the modern world, which was beginning to discover doubt, science, and the individual. Theater back then wasn't an elite entertainment. It was the mass medium. The Globe Theater was noisy, smelled terrible, and was packed with people from all social classes, from the groundlings to the galleries. Shakespeare had to write for all of them simultaneously. This context is crucial. His plays weren't read in silence, they were experienced in public. They had to capture the attention of an illiterate apprentice, and at the same time offer philosophical complexity for the court-educated noble. This tension is what forged his genius. There's often a debate about his authorship, the idea that a man without a university education could write such works. But this ignores that his education was the theater itself. He understood the audience, he understood rhythm, crowd psychology, and above all, the power of the spoken word. Now let's talk about the comedies. We often see them as light works, preludes to his great tragic phase, but this is a mistake. Shakespeare's comedies are laboratories for exploring identity and social norms. Think of Twelfth Night, or As You Like It. What drives the plot? Almost always it's mistaken identity. Women disguised as men, identical twins, stolen identities. Shakespeare takes social structure, especially gender, and shakes it until we see how fragile it truly is. In these plays, forests, like the Forest of Arden, become magical spaces outside the laws of the city. They are places where hierarchies are inverted, fools are wise, and nobles act like fools. It's a space of possibility where identity can be renegotiated. And then there's love. Love in his comedies is never simple. It's chaotic, irrational, often cruel. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, love is literally a magic potion that makes you love the first creature you see, be it a noble or a donkey. It's a fierce critique of the romantic ideal. Shakespeare uses laughter like a scalpel. We laugh at Malvolio, the haughty Puritan in Twelfth Night, but his humiliation at the end is brutal. Comedy allows us to critique power, hypocrisy, and social rigidity in a way that tragedy cannot. Even in his early comedies, we see the central theme of his work, the tension between what we are inside and the role society forces us to play outside. This idea would fully explode in his tragedies. And so we arrive at the heart of darkness, the great tragedies. Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth, and King Lear. These plays are, in essence, the birth of modern psychology and literature. Let's start with Hamlet. Hamlet isn't just a vengeful prince. He's the invention of modern consciousness. He's the first character we see think about thinking. His to be or not to be isn't just a question about suicide, it's a question about the value of action itself in a corrupt world. Hamlet's tragedy is paralysis by analysis. He sees the rot in the state of Denmark, but his own mind is a labyrinth he cannot escape. Shakespeare here creates the inner landscape, the idea that the most important conflict isn't one of swords, but one that occurs within the skull. Then we have Othello. This isn't a tragedy of fate, it's a tragedy of manipulation. It's a terrifying analysis of how language, in the hands of Iago, can be used as a poison to destroy trust, love, and truth. It's a play about misinformation and its lethal consequences. Iago is perhaps his most terrifying villain because his evil is motiveless. He destroys for the sheer joy of it. In Othello, Shakespeare also directly confronts racism, otherness, and the fragility of male reputation in a patriarchal society. Moving on to Macbeth. This is a play about ambition. It's a claustrophobic descent into madness. Shakespeare shows us how a single act of violence spurred by a prophecy can unravel reality itself. The blood on Lady Macbeth's hands isn't real, it's psychological. In Macbeth, the natural order breaks down. Horses eat each other, owls hunt by day. Shakespeare uses nature to reflect moral and political chaos. The play asks, are we pawns of fate, the witches, or are we responsible for our choices? Finally, King Lear. This is perhaps the most desolate play. It's Shakespeare staring into the abyss of old age, filial ingratitude, and madness. When Lear, stripped of everything, finds himself in the storm, he realizes the fundamental injustice of the world. It's the reduction of man to his most vulnerable essence. Lear's tragedy is that he learns empathy too late. Only when he becomes a nobody can he see the suffering of others. It's a play that questions divine justice and offers no easy answers. It is profoundly existential. In these four tragedies, Shakespeare lays out the map of the modern human condition: doubt, Hamlet; jealousy, Othello; ambition, Macbeth; and existential void, Lear. And he does so not with abstract philosophy, but with flesh and blood characters. But Shakespeare wasn't only interested in the individual. He was deeply concerned with politics and power. This brings us to his history plays like Richard III, Henry IV, and Henry V. These plays aren't history lessons. They are manuals of realpolitik. They are the Elizabethan version of Machiavelli's The Prince. Shakespeare dissects the nature of leadership. What makes a good king? Piety or cunning? Strength or legitimacy? Take Richard III. He is the embodiment of Machiavellian tyranny. He is charismatic, intelligent, and utterly amoral. He addresses the audience, making us his accomplices in his rise to power, demonstrating how villainy can be seductive. On the other hand, Henry V was a study in charismatic leadership. His famous St. Crispin's Day speech is a masterpiece of propaganda. It's the invention of modern patriotism, the idea of we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. But Shakespeare is too intelligent to give us a simple hero. Even in Henry V, he shows us the cost of that glory, the massacre of prisoners, the political manipulation. He forces us to ask, is he a hero or a glorified war criminal? And we can't forget Falstaff, one of his grandest characters. Falstaff, the carousing companion of young Prince Hal in Henry IV, he represents life, chaos, disorder, and humanity, contrasted with the cold calculation of state power. The moment Prince Hal becomes King Henry V and publicly rejects Falstaff, "I know thee not, old man," is one of the most heartbreaking in all his work. It's the moment politics and ambition murder friendship, the end of innocence. In his Roman plays, like Julius Caesar and Antony and Cleopatra, he applies the same lens. Julius Caesar is a brilliant study of rhetoric. We see how Brutus's logical, reasoned speech is swept away by Mark Antony's emotional, populist address. It's a lesson in crowd psychology. In Antony and Cleopatra, he contrasts Roman duty, Octavius, with Egyptian passion, Cleopatra. It's the old world of structure versus the new world of desire and chaos. It's a play about how power and love can consume each other. What Shakespeare shows us in all these plays is that politics is not an abstract system. It's the result of very concrete human passions: ambition, fear, loyalty, and betrayal. Power corrupts, but weakness can too. And then we have the poet. Shakespeare didn't just write plays. He wrote 154 sonnets, lyrical poems that changed the way we think about love, time, and beauty. Sonnets of the era were usually Petrarchan idealizations, where the beloved was an untouchable angel. Shakespeare breaks this. His sonnets are addressed to a fair youth and a dark lady. They are poems filled with desire, jealousy, obsession, and brutal honesty. He subverts conventions. The famous Sonnet 130, "My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun," is a parody of romantic poetry. He says, "My beloved is real, not a goddess, and I love her precisely for that." It's a radical realism. But the grand theme of the sonnets is time. Time is the enemy, the devourer that destroys beauty. Shakespeare sees two ways to fight against time: procreation, having children, and art. His poems are a promise of immortality. When he writes, "So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee," it's not just arrogance. It's a declaration about the power of language to preserve life beyond death. And he was right. We're still here reading his words. This obsession with language brings us to his greatest legacy. If we had to choose one single thing Shakespeare did, it was to invent the language we use to describe our own inner lives. People often say Shakespeare introduced thousands of words into English. It's true, words like eyeball, swagger, or lonely, but his genius wasn't just inventing words, it was inventing ways of speaking. He mastered iambic pentameter, the rhythm of 5 beats, da-dum, 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 da-dum. This rhythm mimics the human heartbeat and the natural cadence of English speech. He made his verses memorable and, at the same time, profoundly natural. But then he broke his own rules. When a character is mad or emotionally broken, like Lear in the storm, the pentameter shatters. The language breaks along with the character's mind. Shakespeare uses the form of language to show the content of the psyche. Before Shakespeare, characters often declared their feelings. I am sad. I am angry. Shakespeare's characters show their feelings through complex metaphors. They don't say, I'm depressed. They say, oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. He gave us the modern soliloquy. The moment a character is left alone on stage and speaks their thoughts aloud, this isn't just for the audience to know the plan. It's a character struggling with themselves, debating, rationalizing. It's the sound of a mind at work. Think about it. Phrases like, wear my heart upon my sleeve, break the ice, all that glitters is not gold, a sea of troubles, blind love. These aren't just phrases. They are the conceptual tools we use to construct our emotional reality. He forged them. The critic Harold Bloom went as far as to say that Shakespeare invented the human. This is an exaggeration, of course. But what Bloom meant was that Shakespeare invented the way we represent ourselves as humans. He gave us the vocabulary of self-awareness. His characters are free. Unlike characters in Greek tragedy bound by fate, Shakespeare's characters make choices. His tragedies are almost always the result of a character flaw, a fatal flaw, not an angry god. This is a radical shift in human consciousness. Even his most fantastical plays like The Tempest, his last work, are about this. Prospero, the magician, is a stage director, a playwright. At the end, he breaks his staff, renounces his magic, his art, and asks the audience to free him with their applause. It's the ultimate confession of the power and limits of art. And so we come to the legacy. Why does Shakespeare endure? It's not just because he's on the school curriculum. It's because every generation finds something new in him. He is infinitely adaptable. The Japanese director Akira Kurosawa saw a samurai story in Macbeth and turned it into Throne of Blood. He saw a feudal drama in King Lear and created Ran. The power structures and human failings were universal. We've seen Romeo and Juliet as a gang musical in West Side Story. We've seen Hamlet as a corporate saga in The Lion King. We've seen The Taming of the Shrew as a high school romantic comedy in 10 Things I Hate About You. But his legacy isn't free from criticism, and it's important that it isn't. Feminist critics point to the brutal treatment of characters like Ophelia or Lady Macbeth, who are punished for their power or madness. His works are products of a patriarchy. Post-colonial critics analyze Othello and The Tempest, with the character of Caliban, as problematic representations of race and colonialism. Shakespeare, though visionary, was still a man of his time with its prejudices. But here's the genius. The plays are so rich and ambiguous that they allow these criticisms. There's enough humanity in Shylock, the Jewish moneylender, in The Merchant of Venice, for his monologue, "Hath not a Jew eyes?" to be used to critique the play's own anti-Semitism. Shakespeare doesn't give us answers. He gives us better questions. His plays aren't moral lessons. They are mirrors, a mirror that reflects not only Elizabethan society, but also our own. When we look at Hamlet, we don't see a Danish prince. We see ourselves paralyzed by uncertainty. His true legacy is ambiguity, the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time. It's fair is foul and foul is fair. He teaches us that heroes have flaws and villains have motives. Freud used Hamlet to define the Oedipus complex. Marxists analyze class struggle in Coriolanus. Politicians quote Henry Vive. Every branch of human thought can find its roots or its antithesis in Shakespeare. So what is the human condition according to Shakespeare? It's chaotic. It's contradictory. We are caught between our angel-like intellect and our animal appetites. We are capable of the most beautiful poetry and the most abject cruelty, and often at the same time. He shows us that life isn't an ordered narrative. It is, as Macbeth says at the end, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And yet, the act of telling that tale, of putting words to it, is what gives us meaning. In the end, Shakespeare's legacy isn't a collection of works. It's a tool for living. He taught us that our deepest feelings, our ambition, our jealousy, our love, and our despair are not isolated. They are universal. He gave us the language to name our own confusion. We are, as he said, such stuff as dreams are made on. To read Shakespeare, or better, to see Shakespeare, is an act of self-discovery. It's finding the words for the chaos within us. Thank you for joining me on this profound analysis. It has been an honor to explore these ideas with you. If you found this journey valuable, please consider subscribing for more analyses of the ideas that define us. And now I ask you, what Shakespeare play has impacted you the most? Let me know in the comments below. Oh, still here? Excellent. I often get asked, where do I start with Shakespeare? Don't start with King Lear. Start with the action. Macbeth is short, sharp, and bloody, like a modern action flick. Or Romeo and Juliet, which remains the most visceral teenage love story. And a golden tip: don't read it silently like a novel. His plays were meant to be seen and heard. Find a good audio production, or better yet, watch a film. Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, or the 2015 Macbeth with Michael Fassbender. The language comes alive when it's performed. Circling back to the comedies for a second, the structure of comedy in Shakespeare is fascinating. Unlike tragedy, which starts in order and ends in chaos, comedy begins in chaos, confused identities, unjust laws, and ends in order. Generally a wedding, or several. But even his happy endings are ambiguous. In The Merchant of Venice, everyone is happy except Shylock, who is destroyed. In Twelfth Night, Malvolio exits swearing revenge. Shakespeare knows there's no such thing as a happy ending for everyone. Let's talk about his female characters. They are extraordinarily complex for their time. They aren't just love interests. Rosalind, in As You Like It, is smarter and more capable than any man in the play. Cleopatra is a political leader and a tragic figure of immense power. Of course, he also has Juliet, who is often misunderstood as a simple lovesick girl. Juliet is incredibly proactive. It is she who proposes marriage. It is she who devises the plan with the friar. She's a force of nature in a world trying to control her. And Lady Macbeth, she isn't simply evil. She's a woman trapped in a system that won't allow her to govern, so she channels her ambition through her husband. Her famous "Unsex Me Here" scene is a cry of frustration against the limitations of her gender. Shakespeare's universality also comes from his ability to blend the high and the low. His plays effortlessly jump from the most elevated philosophical poetry, Hamlet, to the most vulgar bathroom humor, the porter in Macbeth, in the very same scene. This is what the Romantic poet Coleridge called his myriad-mindedness. Shakespeare didn't have a style. He had all the styles. He could write like a king, a soldier, a philosopher, a nurse, or a fool, and he made each one sound authentic. Think about his villains. Unlike melodramatic villains, Shakespeare's villains are often the most charismatic characters. Iago, Richard III, Edmund, and King Lear, they are intelligent, eloquent, and often have arguments that are disturbingly persuasive. This is because Shakespeare understands that evil rarely sees itself as such. Evil justifies itself. Richard III feels justified by his deformity, Iago by his professional envy, Edmund by his bastard status. He shows us the psychology of villainy. Even in his last phase, the romances or tragicomedies like The Winter's Tale or Cymbeline, he continues to innovate. These plays deal with redemption, forgiveness, and lost time. They are adult fairy tales where statues come to life and lost families are reunited after decades. It's as if, after descending into hell with Lear, Shakespeare needed to find a way out. These late plays suggest that while suffering is inevitable, grace and reconciliation are possible, though they often seem magical. This range is what makes him inexhaustible. You can spend an entire lifetime studying Shakespeare and feel like you've barely scratched the surface. Each play is a world, each soliloquy is an abyss. He is the playwright of empathy. He forces you to step into the shoes of the king, the murderer, the lover, and the fool. He makes you understand from within why people do what they do, and in that act of understanding, we become a little more human. So the next time you hear someone say Shakespeare is boring or irrelevant or too difficult, remember this: you're not reading a dead author. You're uploading a software program that describes the operating system of human consciousness. He gave us the words for our confusion, the form of our ambition, and the map of our hearts. It's not that he is relevant to us, it's that we are still relevant to him. His questions remain ours. In summary, the human condition, according to the Bard, is a band of brothers fighting in the dark, a tale full of sound and fury, and such stuff as dreams are made on. And the fact that we can hold all those ideas at once, that is his ultimate gift. Thanks again for your time and your curiosity. It has been a true pleasure. Until next time. And if you're passionate about era-defining literature, check out our video on Don Quixote and the invention of the modern novel. The link is in the description. Don't forget to comment. See you